Texas is bracing for a massive surge of up to 60,000 migrants at the southern border, which could be the largest group ever to attempt to illegally enter the United States from Mexico. And amid a record surge in illegals apprehended at the border, President Biden's DHS just terminated the border wall contracts in the Laredo and Rio Grande Valley. Former President Trump started the construction of the border wall, and at a rally last night, he named the border crisis as just one of many for Biden. Watch.
After just 9 months under Biden, violent criminals and bloodthirsty gangs are taking over our streets. Illegal aliens and deadly drug cartels are taking over our borders. Inflation is taking over our economy. China's taking over our jobs. The Taliban has taken over Afghanistan. Lunatic leftists are taking over our schools, and radical socialists are taking over our country. As disastrous as the Biden administration has been, no one can blame the great state of Iowa because, boy, we did really good here.
Joe, that was a pretty good rundown there. And for a president for us right now who campaigned on being a unifier in chief, it seems as if he is dedicated to two things: incompetence and also absolutely dismantling every single thing that the prior president put in place. Included, of course, are all of the border wall contracts. And it seems that he is ignoring any prior program or policy that was actually serving well and serving good, regardless of what party is identified with the person behind putting that policy in place. So what do you see here happening now that he's terminating all of these border wall contracts?
Is that for me, Emily?
Yep, Joe.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. I was so distracted how well we're matching right now as far as the pink thing is concerned. And
it's
we
like
didn't call
prom.
each other people at home.
We're taking a prom photo after
this. It's like prom. Look, a Quinnipiac poll released last week, and it was devastating. Shows that the Biden-Harris administration is polling at 23% approval on their handling of the border. And I'd love to sit down and have some Boone Strawberry Ale, speaking of strawberry, with the 23% who somehow think that things are going well down there. And the surges, to your point, to your read, Emily, it's only increasing. Meanwhile, the president can travel 23 times to Delaware since the beginning of the year, but has yet to travel to the border in his 50 years in government. All of this while his vice president, who once compared ICE to the KKK, is MIA at the border. WTF, not LOL, as we go full acronym on this one. But one would think, I know you like acronyms, Emily, that they wouldn't continue to make every wrong decision on securing the border and bringing sanity back to running the country and enforcing the laws in the books. But sure enough, they won't, leading some on the right. And it's beginning to be a fair question. I thought it wasn't at first, but how do you ignore 2.3 million people coming into the country in 1 year? And that's the pace we're on right now. Is this intentional at this point? Because it doesn't seem like they have any interest in fixing this problem.
Right. It's sort of like in law how when there's a negligence standard, there's such a thing as so much negligence it becomes criminal, like it becomes absolutely ludicrous. And Aishah, as we were just talking about a moment ago, this administration maintains that its highest priority is COVID, right? Its highest priority is managing every single thing that flows from the pandemic. And that is why they have restricted so many liberties and freedoms and the like. And so how does that fit in with the fact that they are ignoring essentially what is occurring on the southern border? For example, the almost 15,000 Haitian migrants that surged across the border in the last few weeks, that's coming from a country with a less than 1% vaccination rate. This administration allows for all of these illegal migrants coming over to have an over 30% vaccination declination rate. The spread of the transmission is over 6%. They closed New York City public schools at 3%. So how does that even fit with their maintaining that COVID is their highest priority?
Yeah, I think, this is not a political problem here. I think everyone can agree that our hearts break for these people and the position that they're sort of put in as they cross the border. One, sitting next to each other under a bridge, as we saw not too long ago. But then also, the way the cartels are taking advantage of the situation. I've been down there twice, and I've obviously seen the equipment and the materials to build a border wall just sitting there and rotting away. And obviously now we found out through our brilliant Brett Baer that we were spending about $5 million a day to not build the border wall. But I want to just make sure that we don't forget that the problem that we're not confronting right now are the cartels. And that is what you would hear from the Border Patrol agents. And Henry Cuellar, a congressman from this district, who is a Democrat, by the way, not for the border wall, but for border security, would like to see some of this money that's now going to be diverted somewhere else, would like to see that spent on technology, on finding ways to better protect the border from the cartels, and whether that's cameras or lighting or adding more Border Patrol agents. But we really need to center the conversation back on the cartels, because it's the cartels that are really taking advantage of the situation and advantage of all of these people that eventually some of them will be trafficked, will not be able to live the American dream once they get into this country, will be abused.
Right, Guy, Aishah makes such a great point. There are such a complex web of factors, of push and pull factors there at the southern border, not least of which is the human smuggling industry, which is the largest global illicit industry besides drugs, that the cartels are freely seizing upon, pushing so many thousands, hundreds of thousands of people across the border. Reign of terror. We have, again, a commander-in-chief who touted his almost 50-year experience in government as part of his international savvy, as part of the diplomacy required to work with Mexico and those Central American countries and governments to help manage those national or international transnarco cartels. And yet nothing is happening again. And now they're dismantling contracts and putting the money towards environmental factors. You can't make this up, Guy.
No, the policies are just breathtaking. And I want people to think about this, right? If you look at the economy right now, we have very disappointing job numbers that just came out on Friday. We have growth not meeting expectations. We have inflation hitting Americans in their pocketbooks and their bottom lines. And the policy solution from the Democratic Party and from the White House on those fronts are to raise taxes on job creators and to spend trillions more dollars in an age of inflation. Those are just, I think, to me, shockingly bad ideas under any circumstance, but especially under these circumstances. You apply that to the border and the crisis that we're seeing down there. What are the things that Biden has done at the border? Number one, he has now stopped and cut off all funding and contracts for building a barrier, a wall that I think, I understand people don't like Trump and they don't like his slogan. They want to distance themselves from building the wall because of that tribalism. But when you watch people just walking across into our country, it's hard to argue that some barrier or wall would not help, but they won't do that because of political reasons. And secondly, they have canceled and terminated the Remain in Mexico policy, which was one of the single most successful Trump-era policies on the books that helped get a previous crisis under control. They've abandoned it entirely, even though it's on its face, it has manifestly worked. They aren't interested in that. And over again, they put politics ahead of successful policy, and it is an extremely frustrating thing to watch.
That's exactly right. This administration's answer to everything is to take away your liberties, take away your money, and then to blame you or the prior president for anything that goes wrong.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.